Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, September 8th, and certainly glad that you're here. We'll start our meeting by introducing you to your City Council.
Council members Anderson.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Erpenbach. Here. Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Kiley.
Here.
Rolfing. Staggers.
Present.
Thank you very much, Council. Appreciate that. In Sioux Falls, we start our council meetings with an invocation, and Pastor Kevin Schneider is back to lead us in that invocation. And again, Pastor Kevin, thanks for doing this for us tonight. Pastor is from the Good News Reformed Church here in Sioux Falls. What we'd ask you to do is to stand for the invocation and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Kevin.
Let us pray. Father, as I was praying today and thinking about our time together tonight, Father, you reminded me of an old hymn, and it has the words that says, O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. Father, as I look over our city, and as I was praying today, God, you have been our hope, and you have been our help in ages past. Father, you have blessed us with a city that is just amazing. Father, it is a place that is secure, it is safe, it is a place, God, that people desire to be. And so we give you praise and thanks for all that you have done in this city. But Father, you are also our hope in things to come. And so tonight, Father, we pray for some of those things to come. Father, I pray for the council. I pray, Father, that you would give them wisdom and insight, Father, as they think about and as they make decisions concerning our city. Father, may you help them and lead them and guide and direct all that they will talk about and all that they must decide. But Father, also as we gather here tonight, Father, we pray for all of those employees of our city, those municipal employees who give of their time, talents, and energy, not only to provide for our city, but God, to help make our city safe. And God, we live in a world that is just crazy right now. And so tonight, Father, as I look out, I pray specifically for our law enforcement. I pray for those men and women who, Father, will be driving up and down the streets, who will answer calls and go to emergencies and provide and protect. God, may you watch over them and as well, Father, give them insight and wisdom and protection, please. For we love you and we thank you. And God, we just lift up all that must take place. Know that we come here and we seek you as we seek the decisions of the things that go on. It's in your name that we pray tonight. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Lori Montes from the Helpline Center, please. Lori, please come forward. Thank you. Lori, thanks for being here tonight. And Lori's with the Helpline Center here in Sioux Falls. I do have the proclamation that I'd love to read on their behalf. Whereas one person in the United States dies by suicide every 12.8 minutes. Whereas suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the second leading cause of death among young people between the ages of 15 and 24. Whereas suicide is the 9th leading cause of death overall in South Dakota and the second leading cause of death among people under age 35 in South Dakota. Whereas it is estimated that there are over 1 million people in the United States who are survivors of suicide loss each year. Whereas there were 147 deaths by suicide in South Dakota in 2013. Whereas 25 people right here in Minnehaha County lost their lives to suicide in 2014. Whereas in 2014, the Helpline Center in Sioux Falls answered 1,599 suicide-related calls through 211 and the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Whereas our community can work together to reduce the stigma associated with mental illness and encourage people at risk to seek life-saving help. Whereas this Helpline Center, as the only crisis line in South Dakota accredited by the American Association of Suicidology, is dedicated to reducing the frequency of suicide attempts and deaths and the pain of survivors affected by suicides of loved ones through their suicide prevention, intervention, and aftercare efforts. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim September 7th through the 13th as Suicide Prevention Week in Sioux Falls. Lori, thank you so much. Please, let's acknowledge their work. And Caitlin Borges, please. Caitlin, welcome. Really appreciate you being here, Caitlin. Thank you. The proclamation reads, whereas the term fetal alcohol spectrum disorders is an umbrella term that describes a range of effects that can occur in a baby whose mother drank alcohol during pregnancy, with the fetal alcohol syndrome, FAS, being the most involved condition along the spectrum. Whereas prenatal alcohol exposure is the leading preventable cause of birth defects and intellectual and developmental disabilities. Whereas the exact number of people who have FASDs is unknown, but it is estimated that about 40,000 babies are born with effects of prenatal alcohol exposure every year. Whereas the lifetime cost for one individual with FAS is estimated to be $2 million, with the combined cost of the United States for FAS alone over $4 billion a year. Whereas 7.6% of pregnant women, or otherwise 1 in 13, and 51.5% of non-pregnant women, or 1 in 2, report drinking alcohol in the past 30 days. Whereas about half of all pregnancies are unplanned, contributing to the late entry of prenatal care and presenting a barrier to optimal pregnancy management, particularly during the crucial early weeks of embryonic development. Whereas the good health and well-being of the people of Sioux Falls are enhanced by the support of a national effort to educate about and prevent FASDs. Whereas the National Organization on Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, South Dakota, based at the University of South Dakota Center for Disabilities, joined with many organizations across the state, as well as many dedicated volunteers, healthcare professionals, educators, and parent groups by participating in this promotion. Thank you. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim September 9th, 2015 as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Awareness Day, and pledge to continue to partner with organizations, healthcare professionals, educators, and the public to raise awareness about our unified message. And it's simple. Pregnancy and alcohol don't mix. Why take the risk? Caitlin, thank you. Council, thank you very much. And we'll now move to our regular agenda, or consent agenda, please.
Move for approval. Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Karski. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Council, our regular agenda, any changes to that?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to adjourn, to approve our regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Thank you. Folks, again, welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Certainly pleased with the attendance that we have here tonight. This is an opportunity for you to engage the council on really any topic that is of interest to you. If it is a topic that is later on in the agenda, we'd ask you to hold your comments until then. But any other topic, come forward. Two things. We just ask you to give your name to the people of our town, and if you can keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, the council would appreciate that. Welcome.
Bruce Danielson, Sioux Falls. I just wanted to let the council know that we've been trying to use the new SIRE video system that's live online, and it's lousy. It doesn't work. It skips. The sound goes all over the place. It's pretty weak. And I've also been trying to use the archive system in two different ways. I have a special purpose in this that's personal and trying to honor somebody, and I've been trying to do some research out on the system, trying to look for this information, and the search system just doesn't work. I'm on a very fast internet connection with a very fast computer, and a very clean computer, and I can't get the search to work. And I would like to have this council look in to see why we can't actually function in the search system. And so today there was a press conference, a press release that came out on a story that I caught this weekend on the Forbes article on the Sioux Falls, and talking about the Silicon City of Sioux Falls. And it's kind of strange that it's almost like a Teflon city, but there's things that happen here that it's very unusual that we've got years of growth in Sioux Falls. We've always known that Sioux Falls is never going to hit the highs, it's never going to hit the lows in the United States economy, because we're out here in the middle of the sticks in the flyover country. And for anybody to take claim that starting in April of 2010, that the only reason why there's only one person or one philosophy that's made this work is kind of disingenuous. You know, back in the 1920s, they used to brag that Mussolini kept the trains running on time. Well, there was a reason why he kept the trains running on time, and we won't get into that right now. So we want to brag that we have a strong mayor form of government, and this is wrong. This is a policy-making body, and this body needs to be setting policy for the administration to follow. And we're trying to do all we can to help strengthen this body and encourage this body to become more of the policy-making body of the City of Sioux Falls. It's the one main function that you have. So then that brings us up to the next topic that we came up with, and you can put the next one on, Jim. So the Argus Leader had a piece this weekend, and this one's kind of near and dear to my heart because it's cost me a lot over the last 14 months or so. But on the opinion page, the Argus Leader pretty much is asking the same questions that we've been asking for all this time. You're setting up to make a deal on the event center and close out the process. You know, there were a couple of mistakes made early on in this thing, and openness could have helped a tremendous amount. One of them being that the actual final occupancy permit was issued. And that should have probably never been issued until some kind of a decision is made, because a lot of contractors can walk out on any deal that comes along just because a final occupancy permit was issued. And so we have oil can siding, and now we're going to have a gag order. You know, we're going to have a situation where none of you can talk about the agreement, as if you probably know anything about it already. And then we're going to be coming back to having, someday we want to know where the fault was and why we're having to replace rusty bent-up siding on an event center, because that event center is not going to hold together. The finish is only good for 20 years. And so we're going to be doing something within 20 years for sure, and when we open it up, we're going to find the rust and the mold and everything else that's likely to be in those walls if the sheetrock hasn't been breached. So we've been, you can go to the next one. So we've been taking all of this, and we're still waiting for the city attorney's office to file the paperwork in the clerk of court's office, because we'd like to see the paperwork. Right now, it just looks like the event we went to last Wednesday was just a bluff session, and we'd like to have some answers. We're tired of hearing all the buff that goes with this, and I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennison. We appreciate that. Folks, is there anybody else who want to engage the council? Well, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate that. Council will now move to item number 7.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 57, Garbage and Recycling, to change the composition of the Solid Waste Planning Board.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. I spoke really quickly last week, so I'm just going to briefly tell you again what I'm here for. I'm here as the chair of the Solid Waste Planning Board.
Jessica, could you just introduce yourself to our
so
people
sorry,
of our town?
yes. I'm Jessica Lynch, and I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Sioux Falls.
Thank you.
The ordinance revision in front of you would replace the City of Madison representation on the board with a member from the business community within the 5-county region. The reason for this, that the board voted unanimously to make this change. The City of Madison no longer uses our regional landfill to deposit their waste. They now go to the Brookings landfill. So we'd rather replace that representative with somebody from the commercial sector as we try to expand our recycling and waste diversion initiatives beyond what we've done just for residential recycling. I think this will help us to increase our regional recycling rate and identify additional waste diversion opportunities for our landfill. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Jessica, thank you for being here. And you're starting tonight versus ending like last week.
Feels
That's
good,
great.
yeah.
Folks, this is a second reading, so what that means, you actually have the opportunity to talk about this topic to the council. Anybody interested in doing that? Well, thank you. We appreciate council in your hands, please.
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Erickson.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Erickson. Councilor Staggers.
Yes. I guess I brought this up before, but Madison leaving, they're leaving for a good reason from their perspective. And I think you mentioned that they left because some of our requirements are too strict when it comes to recycling and so forth. Is that correct?
I think what I said, the tipping fees are actually more expensive in Brookings, but we do have different licensing requirements here for our regional landfill. Some of them have to do with recycling, others have to do with their trucks. So there are different requirements that they took a look at, and I can't speak on behalf of the City of Madison, but it just didn't work into their business model. And it's been a few years since they've been coming to our landfill. They were meeting the recycling requirements for a while, so they were aware of those requirements and what they needed to do, but for whatever reason, they're now using the Brookings landfill.
Okay. Has there been any thought on our part about, whether we should take a look at our requirements? And, maybe Madison leaving is just kind of a quirk, but I don't know, maybe it's not.
I think that what this ordinance revision here would do today is to maybe open that conversation further. Having a representative on the board that doesn't use the landfill doesn't do the board any good. So part of the reason for the Solid Waste Planning Board is to review those ordinances. So we need to have a strong board with all stakeholders that actually use and benefit from the landfill involved in that discussion. So that's what this ordinance revision is today here. We have not looked at changing our licensing requirements for recycling. Each year, our haulers have continued to exceed our recycling goal, and we're on track to meet our 25% recycling rate goal. We have not had to take enforcement to revoke a license for a hauler not meeting the recycling standard. So from our perspective, we're ready to continue to try to expand that recycling rate because our haulers have shown that they've risen to that challenge.
Okay, thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Thank you. Item 8.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the naming of the Indoor Aquatic Center at Spelleberg Park to Midco Aquatic Center and authorizing the mayor to enter into a title sponsorship agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Mid-Continent Communications.
Welcome, Don.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. Our project team is certainly very thrilled to be before you tonight to present this ordinance. It's an ordinance that will approve the name of our new indoor aquatic center at Spelleberg Park, and it will also authorize the mayor to enter into the title sponsorship agreement with Mid-Continent Communications. The proposed name that was applied to the naming application that was processed through the planning department is the Midco Aquatic Center as proposed. In the case of facilities that are located within Parks and Recreation facilities, the naming ordinance requires that the Parks and Recreation Board in that particular case is the naming committee for this particular facility, since it is located in Spelleberg Park. It is a 10-year agreement with a total cash value of $2.2 million. And it's expected to cover approximately 20% of the approximate $1 million in annual operating expenses for the facility. As you probably remember, we did hire Legends Global Sales to assist us with this process of securing the naming rights deal that we were presenting to you tonight. And we're fortunate to have John Alper with Legends Global Sales. He's the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, and he's here to take you through a little bit more about the agreement. And so I'll turn it over to John. John?
John, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. So the title sponsor agreement, as you can see, contains, and we want to flip to the next slide, actually, if we can. It contains elements of, we've done 17 different naming rights agreements in our history, our company, and contains the elements and the assets that are typical in a normal naming rights agreement. So you've got Mid-Continent being exclusive in their category, providing landline, telephone, broadband internet, and cable TV service. They're going to provide a fantastic Wi-Fi capability within the facilities you would expect. And then also you're going to have the usual dosage of Mid-Continent signage, branding, throughout the facility, whether it be on the pool bottom or throughout the interior and the exterior. So we look at this as a tremendous win for the community, a tremendous win for the city, and based upon Mid-Continent's strategies and marketing initiatives they expressed to us and really want to be integrated in the community, this is a great deal for Midco. So hopefully it'll be approved, and Midco Aquatic Center is a great name.
John, thank you.
I want to introduce also, I know that Dan Nelson's here with Midco.
Yes.
And he wants to say a few words.
Dan, welcome.
Mayor, members of the council, Dan Nelson representing Mid-Continent Communications. Thank you for this opportunity to allow our ownership and staff to once again step up and be involved in our community. I wouldn't have enough time to recount Mid-Continent's history in the decades that we've been working and serving Sioux Falls, but we're pleased to have another opportunity, and we'll see you at second reading. If you would have more questions on our perspective, we'll be around. Thank you.
Dan, thank you so much. Council, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, September 15th for this item?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Erpenbach. Then a question.
It's been a motion to set that date of hearing, and it's been seconded. Councilor Erpenbach.
Just a question about the registration R. Is that going to be part of the signage whenever it's, I'm getting nods. Yes, that's fine. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 9.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing appropriations authorizing an increase in property tax revenue pursuant to SDCL 10-1335 and the means of financing for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2016.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tracy Turback with the Finance Office.
Both items number 9 and number 10 relate to the 2016 budget. Item number 9 is the budget ordinance. This ordinance will do two things. One, appropriates the money for the 2016 budget for the city's 11 governmental or budgeted funds. Essentially, those governmental funds include all of our tax-supported funds. The total appropriated amount under the ordinance as proposed is about $265.4 million. That includes our general fund, which is the largest fund that the city has in terms of its budget. The general fund budget as proposed is $158.9 million. The second thing the ordinance will do is to establish the property tax levy, which provides funding for the 2016 general fund budget. The amount of the levy is estimated at $56.2 million and does include the 1.5% inflationary adjustment allowed under state law. So I would ask that you set this for second reading and public hearing 1 week from tonight. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Counselor.
Move to set the second reading for Tuesday, September 15th, 2015 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Karski.
There has been a motion to set the date of hearing and second reading for September 15th, and it has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Thank you. Item number 10.
Public hearing for public input for a resolution adopting the budget for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2016 and the 2016-2020 capital program.
Thank you. The budget resolution will be up for public hearing tonight. You won't be asked to approve this. It will be on the agenda 1 week from tonight as well, along with the second reading of the budget ordinance. This budget resolution is really the second part of our budget adoption process. It approves the entire city budget for all funds, including the governmental funds, as well as the proprietary and fiduciary funds that the city maintains. The total budget, as recommended for all funds, is $470.6 million. And as I said, that covers all the funds. The city maintains 26 funds currently, both appropriated and non-appropriated funds. The budget resolution also includes the budget for year one of our 5-year capital improvement program, which is, of course, 2016. The second thing the resolution will do is to approve the entire 5-year capital improvement program for the years 2016 through 2020. The total 5-year CIP as proposed is $556.6 million, including year one in 2016 at $133.2 million. So again, tonight is intended for the opportunity for the public to give input on the proposed budget resolution. Thank you.
Tracy, thanks for that explanation. We appreciate that. Folks, a great opportunity for you to engage the council about the budget. There's been all kinds of work done behind the scenes with the employees and certainly with the council as well. A lot of time and effort, but what a great opportunity for you as well. Welcome.
Good evening, Greg Neitzert. I'm just going to talk about some more overarching ideas tonight. First of all, whatever you can do to continue to fund the libraries, I would encourage you to do so. I live just blocks away from Prairie West, which it's a crown jewel of the city. It's beautiful inside and out, and it's a great resource for my family. The bike trails, the more you can put into those, the better, particularly on the west side where I live. But connecting more spokes would be helpful. I know there's plans, but as much as we can accelerate that. TLS Road is starting to deteriorate pretty significantly. It was going to be completely reconstructed and widened and become kind of the west side corridor in about 17, I think. That's now been pushed back to more like 2020 or 2022. So I'm told that they need to do some sort of essentially resurfacing the whole thing to kind of buy us time. So if you can somehow try to move that up, that would be good. One idea I was thinking about as I was doing some work at the county is that there's certain departments like equalization where you can sit down at a computer as a member of the public and you can do research. And it'd be nice if there was something, if planning had something like that. I know we're scanning all these documents in and getting them all electronic. where somebody like me or anybody could go down there and type in a property and pull up public records. As it stands now, for just about anything that I want, I literally have to call or email, and then, you know, a staff member has to get to it, and then they got to go dig and find it for me and send it to me. And, you know, so if I just want to see what, you know, permits or conditional use permits have been on a property, it would be something like a self-service, like a one-computer kiosk. And I guess the only other thing I would say is this is proposed to be the largest budget in our city's history. I guess I would say I would just remember where the revenue comes from, and that's taxpayers. So there's a balance. We provide some wonderful services, but we also have to think about where that money comes from. So I guess it's hard for me to get in. I don't think this is the way it meant to come out, but I don't think it's something we should be excited about, that this is the largest budget in our city's history. So we need to think about the taxpayers as well. We've increased a lot of user fees, and I kind of wonder, are there any taxes that could be reduced to offset the fact that we've increased all these user fees? And I always go back to the 0.08% arterial increase. The platting fees never materialized, and I think we now dump that money in the general fund. And I was just looking at the resolution for that, which, in fairness to the mayor, and I think 6 of you were not even on the council at the time. That was before most of your times. But if you read the resolution, it specifically said the money will be used for arterial street expansion, and it also talked about the platting fees. Neither one is done anymore. So just as a matter of principle, that ought to be repealed. And then if you want to bring back something and increase taxes again and tell the taxpayers that we have record revenues, but we're going to increase your taxes again, you know, so be it, make the argument. But we're not following what was in that anymore. And the same would go with the inflationary increase. I understand it's a compounding effect, but I guess the only thing I would say to that is that every dollar you take from me is something I can't invest, and I have I lose the compounding effect over all of those years, so it's kind of a zero-sum game. So continue to provide excellent services, but let's see if we can try not to have the largest budget in city history. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good start. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Well, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Item 11.
A resolution approving the assessment roll for the collection of past due occupancy tax in the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Good evening again. Tracy Turback with the Finance Office. As the council members know, that under city ordinance, a $2 per night occupancy tax is charged by lodging establishments within the City of Sioux Falls. Currently, there are 53 lodging establishments in the city collecting this tax. Following an internal audit that was completed in early 2014, one establishment was identified as being delinquent in remitting those taxes. We did go through some early collection effort processes, and we were partially successful in collecting some of the past due amount. That establishment, however, currently has a balance that remains unpaid. The best remaining alternative, after working with the city attorney's office, is to collect these past due taxes, is to assess the unpaid amount against the property involved. So that's the purpose of the resolution before you tonight. If approved, the resolution again would levy the unpaid amount against the property. The amount levied would then become a lien upon the property. The resolution would also establish the collection process similar to other city assessments that you're familiar with that are collected through the county treasurer's office, and the unpaid amount then, as assessed, would become due and payable next year in 2016. I'd stand by for any questions.
Tracy, thank you. Did anybody want to speak to this item in the audience? Councilor Staggers?
Yes. Tracy, how much money are we talking about?
You do have the assessment roll that's attached to the resolution. There is one property. The amount to be assessed is $31,894.
Council, would anybody be willing to make a motion?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
That is passed 6-1. Item 12.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of Matt Burns.
Mayor and City Council, Bill O'Toole from the Human Resources Office. It's my privilege today to present this item. As you just heard, this is a resolution providing advice and consent for the appointment of Matt Burns as our next Chief of Police. For the members of the audience and those watching at home who do not know, in early August, our current police chief, Doug Barthel, announced his retirement, leading us to search for a new police chief for the Sioux Falls Police Department. The mayor's made that appointment via executive order and per city charter requirements. That requires advice and consent of the city council as well. And what I thought I would do is give just a little bit of history for those that may not know Matt or maybe have heard this for the first time, give a little bit of a bio. Matt is here to answer any questions you may have, and then we'll move on. I promise I won't take long. Matt Burns began his career with the Sioux Falls Police Department in July 1996, serving as a patrol officer, fraud detective, patrol sergeant, property crimes detective sergeant, Southwest Quadrant lieutenant, crimes against persons lieutenant, and currently serves as assistant chief. During his tenure, Assistant Chief Burns has been a member of the SWAT team, an ethics instructor, helped with strategic planning, and was an internal investigator on the Professional Standards Unit. He served in the United States Air Force from 1989 to 1992 and earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Central Missouri. I also want the council to know that I served on the interview panel that identified Matt Burns for Assistant Chief when we made that selection as well. And I want to ensure you that he comes with my highest recommendation, and I urge your support for this resolution. And as I said before, he is here if you would have any questions for Matt Burns.
Assistant Chief Burns, would you just come forward just to present yourself to the people of Sioux Falls, as well as maybe the council does have some questions for you. Any comments, Assistant Chief Burns?
Sure. Council, Mayor, good evening. Matt Burns, thank you. I am very honored and grateful for this opportunity to lead our department. You know, we have a long and proud history of serving the citizens of our city. We've worked very hard to build that professional relationship with our citizens. We work to be trusted and valued by the citizens, and we're very pleased to know that we have their support. We work hard also to be a department that gets the fundamentals of enforcing the law, maintaining the order, and the prevention of crime right, but we also place a high emphasis on the customer service and being a community caretaker. I will always put in place expectations supported by the necessary training of our officers that the current environment dynamics demand, whether it's now or how we engage the community, our citizens, the media, or recruit new officers. So again, if you have any questions for me, I appreciate your support, and thank you for this opportunity.
Assistant Chief Burns, thank you. I'm first going to go to the audience. Is there anybody who wants to speak to this particular item in terms of this topic? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Erpenbach.
I just wanted to, number one, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excellent choice. I spent some time with the Assistant Chief recently, and I just appreciate his perspective. I did have one question that I just kind of, and I didn't prep you on this, sorry, but we talk a lot about crime rate in Sioux Falls, and some people maybe make a bigger deal of it than others. And you talked to me about your perspective on crime rate, and I wonder if you could just talk about how you see us in Sioux Falls and compare us. You're coming on as police chief in a really volatile time in our history, and so I guess if you could talk about crime rate and how Sioux Falls kind of fits in that global picture for crime rate kind of things.
Absolutely. Well, since I've been on the department since 1996, we have always enjoyed a comparatively low crime rate in comparison to other municipalities across the country of our size, and that's still accurate. Now, while we see a growth rate of about 2% in our population, we see a commensurate rate at about the same with our calls for service and our crime rate has remained relatively stable. In fact, this year, one benchmark is our homicide rate, and we're about a third of what we were last year, where we ended the year. So in my view, as long as those two lines are growing at about the same and don't converge or cross one another, then our crime rate is steadily growing as our population does. And I mean, we know that we're growing. We live right at the intersection of two major interstates, and we're within 4 hours of one and 3 hours of another major metropolitan area. And so you're going to have some issues with crime, but we're pleased still to believe that it's in control, and we're going to work very hard to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Councilor Mott? Thank you. Yes, Councilor Staggers?
Yes, congratulations on your selection. I have just a couple of policy questions. First of all, in regard to vest cameras, if you could say something about that, and also stun guns too.
The body cameras?
Or body cameras, yes.
Certainly. That is something that we're looking to invest in the 2016 budget and purchase about a dozen of the body cameras and the associated equipment. We want to put those on our motor officers and some of our bicycle officers to kind of plug a gap where they don't currently have a camera platform. And in doing so, we see how that works, and see the kind of fields of view we get, how the audio performs, and make sure that it is compatible with our current Panasonic system that we have. And you know, during the off months when the motorcycles aren't out and say the bicycles aren't out, we'll put those on select officers to continue that testing program. We want to make sure that they work right, that they give us good value for the dollar spent, and that it, you know, does what it's intended to do, and that's give us a good view where we don't currently have one. If it's a successful program, it's something that we may look at expanding, and certainly we would ask for your support if we do that. But we'll get through the testing phase and we'll report back.
Assistant Chief Barron's, Councilor Staggers also asked about, was it stun guns? Stun guns?
Sure. Our taser system, as it's known, conducted electrical weapon. It was something we've just fielded here recently, and I can report that it's actually gone very well. There's been several instances so far where just the presentation of it or the activation just in the air, it gives a certain sound of electrical discharge, and just the presentation of it has given away to situations where we're getting compliance with just the presentation. And that's a win for us. It's a win for the citizens. Our goal was, one of the goals was to reduce officer injuries from getting in a physical altercation, as well as potential citizen injuries, and so far we can say that's been realized, so we're pleased with that.
Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. I was going to share with the group that I met Matt back in 2007 when I was running for the city council. He was representing that Southwest district, and when I asked to do a ride-along to kind of get to know the police department, Matt was there. And he's the same guy today as he was then. Real solid, real good, positive impression of the police department for me, and it had a big impact on me just watching Matt and listening to him. I'm glad to see you here today. But I do have a test question for you. And depending on how you answer this, no, it's not like that, but on Main Avenue, you know, right out here, when you go to the one-way and then the one-way 12th to the east, can you take a left turn on that red light?
My gosh.
A left on red. Can you do that?
Yes, you can.
There we have it. From here. Thank you.
What?
I don't know if that's correct, Chief Barthel, but...
you may suffer a consequence, but you can.
Thank you. That is the answer we're looking for. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, Council, there has been a motion to appoint Assistant Chief Matt Burns as the new Chief of Police for the City of Sioux Falls, and it has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
I am pleased to announce that the Sioux Falls City Council has unanimously consented to the appointment of Assistant Chief Matt Burns to his new title, effective after our current chief is done. But I want to at least introduce the City of Sioux Falls to the Chief of Police-elect, Mr. Matt Burns. Council, thank you so much. And it should be noted that if you didn't see him in the camera, Chief Barthel was beaming with pride as well as had a tear strolling down his face, which is very appropriate. Thank you, Chief, for your service as well. It's hard, but we have to move on to item number 13.
A resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Annexation 2898, 2015, Westwood Valley 2 Edition.
Mike Cooper with Planning and Building Services. Tonight you have before you a petition requesting annexation. The applicant is Rick Dunlap on behalf of RBD Homes. They have been developing the property adjacent to this annexation request. The property is located on the north side of West 41st Street and about a quarter mile west of the TLS Road. It consists of just over 54 acres of the two parcels that are shown on the exhibit. Within our growth management plan, we identify tiers. Tier 1 is areas that are adjacent to the city limits that have the ability to be annexed and extended with infrastructure within a 3 to 5 year period of time or less. So this property is in Tier 1, which is shown on the exhibit, and it is in conformance with our comprehensive plan. The proposed land use is going to be residential. This would be an extension of Westwood Valley Addition and would be called Westwood Valley 2. Utilities would be extended from the east where the current development is going on. And so we do have the ability to extend both water and sewer. Along with that, the developers are showing a concept of what the future roadway system would look like. And I'll emphasize that once the annexation is approved by the council, the next two steps are the rezoning and the preliminary subdivision plan, which would go to the Planning Commission and then finally to the City Council for approval. So that preliminary subdivision plan, as you know, is the one that has the detail on it that shows more specifics about the utilities as far as, and along with the phasing of the roadway system. But you can see by this exhibit that there are plans to have multiple access points in and out of this development, and it will be the second of probably 3 phases of development out in this area. The property is located within the T Area School District, and it is being supported by both planning and engineering staff tonight as far as a recommendation for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Is anyone in the audience who want to speak to this item? Council?
Move to approve. Second, Karski.
Councilor Jameson's made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Karski. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, using this map, the property to the east in the lower section there, is that annexed in already, or is that open territory?
That's currently not annexed. That's a different property owner.
How's our utilities and everything, and have we checked drainage, things like that?
Yeah, everything has been looked at by planning and engineering staff. And as I said, this utilities will be an extension of the Westwood development directly to the east. So there are not going to be any significant issues in terms of utilities. As we get out to the west side of this, which will ultimately be phase 3, then we're getting to the very edge of our sanitary sewer basin.
Okay, thank you.
Council, thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 14.
A resolution creating tax incremental district number 20, City of Sioux Falls.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. Brent O'Neill with the Economic Development Division. Here to follow up on the item we presented on 4 o'clock, and thank you for taking some time to get the overview then. I'll go through this one a little more quickly. I also want to point out that the action we're asking the council tonight is 2 items, items 14 and 15. So the presentation will really cover both of those. Before I get started, I also want to acknowledge that a member of the project team is here, Rob Everest, representing Washington Square, as their counsel, Jim Wiederig. So moving right in, again, wanted to kind of orient everyone to the site. Again, across from the Washington Pavilion on Main Avenue. The picture on the right is a shot of the parking lot that exists there today. The line in the yellow is the proposed tax increment financing district. It would be tax increment financing district 20 if approved. Again, an overview of the project. It's a 7-story building. It'll have a mix of uses, including parking, office, retail, and condominium space. I'll point out a couple things on the right. There'll be 200 total parking spaces in here. 125 of those are key. They will be open to the public. In particular, they'll be free nights and weekends, but also made available by the developer during other hours, also to serve the building as well as the public. And then, let's see, $30 million is our estimated cost of this project, the numbers that the developers are coming up with for their construction budget. As we looked at TIF, there were kind of two numbers that were really key. One was the number of eligible expenses. Those are the expenses listed that could basically be reimbursed through TIF. And then the other important piece is what is actually needed for the project to occur. And after, while the application came in April, and after a couple months of serious analysis and serious discussion on the project, both the project team and the city feel that that number of $2.9 million is the amount necessary in TIF for this project to go forward. Wanted to kind of repeat a couple of those points. Those first 2 points there, again, are those construction costs. That $30 million we talked about that's been vetted, including our own staff, as well as you see up there, the Tager Group was involved in that. Again, we reviewed the project financials and went through a lot of discussion on what options were available, including options outside of TIF. And ultimately, again, that $2.9 million number is where both the city and the development team feel that gap is. I'll have a slide here in a second on the uses of funding, but again, it's important that those TIF dollars serve some sort of public purpose and public benefit. And then again, the significance of a project anytime you consider it. Certainly a 7-story building of this quality downtown is a significant project. There's a market study that shows potentially high impacts, and certainly the additional parking helps the overall system as a whole. And then you'll see in the project plan, I talked about it earlier, projecting how the proposed TIF will work is also a key component, maybe one of the final components of actually bringing it together. So we've got that piece in place as well. I mentioned the TIF eligible expenses, and I won't belabor it since we did leave it up there for a while earlier, but those are the listing of those roughly $6 million in costs. This, again, I talked about kind of putting the TIF together. This is how it'll work, and I trust me, will not go through this in great detail other than to kind of draw your attention to the far right column and show you over the life of a TIF. That is really what we expect for the property tax revenue, and for a period of time that property tax revenue will be used to pay the TIF rather than the taxing entities, and you can see that impact to those entities on the right. And then this is a little bit of an artificial line, but you see the color difference on the far right between the darker blue and more of the teal. That's really to kind of give a snapshot of what we feel the life of this TIF is. Certainly it's shorter than most of the TIFs we've done here, so it's going to be in that 10 to 12 year range, and then the district would dissolve at that point. So tonight before you, we're recommending approval of 2 of 3 actions that the council would need to take for this project to be effective. The first 2 items, 14 and 15. 14 is approving the boundary. Basically sets the district in stone and will allow us to set the base value of the district. And then item 15 is the project plan. It's a fairly lengthy document that articulates a lot of the things I've already said, but also gives into a lot more detail and makes sure that we have things in there in compliance with state law. And then if the council does approve those tonight, we anticipate being back in October with a development agreement, and that's really where it's a binding document that would be authorized at that time that the city would enter into with the developers, more or less pledging that $2.9 million. And I'll reiterate here, it's an up to amount, so there will be a process here, and I'll get into that when we have the development agreement, but a process to basically vet the cost and vet the project before that full amount is committed. And then the last thing you see up there, whenever there's a project like this, certainly there's a carrying cost of providing that funding on a project day one and the TIF last several years, so there is a finance cost that goes with that as well. So with that, I'll stand by. I'd answer questions, or the team is here as well.
Brent, thank you very much. Is there anyone who wanted to speak to this item before I turn it over to the council? Councilors? Councilor Jameson.
Brent, just as a point of reference, the Sharapa Place construction estimated value and then the TIF amount that they requested, can you refresh my memory on that compared to this project?
Sure. I'll have to, I apologize, I'll have to do my own refreshing a little bit too, so bear with me. I believe that project was in the neighborhood of 20 million, and I can certainly confirm that for you later. The amount of TIF was about, I think, and that was one that was actually bonded. I think the bonds were a little over 2 million.
Does the 10% kind of a reference have any kind of relevance? It seems like that's a...
We have used a 15% reference before.
Okay.
And really anything over 15, it's certainly possible, but it's probably unusual. Anything that's less, whenever TIF's in consideration, is probably a bonus.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilor. Council, would anybody want to make a motion? Councilor.
Move for approval.
Second, Erickson.
Councilor Kiley's made a motion to approve item number 14, seconded by Councilor Erickson. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 15.
A resolution approving the project plan for tax incremental district number 20, City of Sioux Falls.
Brent, did you, anything else you wanted to say? I know you covered it.
No, I feel pretty good.
Very good. Folks, again, one more. Anybody want to engage the council on this topic? Councilors?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve item 15, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 16.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, correcting the list of legal descriptions in vacation resolution number 55-15.
Good evening, Chad Heavey with the Engineering Division of Public Works. On July 14th of this year, you vacated this right-of-way, which is south of Madison Street and between the Big Sioux River and Kiwanis Avenue. Tonight's resolution corrects some legal descriptions that were incorrect in that original resolution.
Chad, thank you very much. Is there anybody who wanted to speak to this item? Thank you. And David, 5 councilors are enough? For
6.
Oh, now we have 6. No, not at all, sir. Not at all. Council, any motions?
Motion to approve.
Second, Kiley.
Councilor Buck's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Kiley. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 6-0. Item 17.
A resolution approving the release of the permanent 10-foot and 5-foot utility easements and a permanent 10-foot sanitary sewer easement located in Tract 6B of Park South, in addition to the City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota.
These easements are south of 49th Street and west of Minnesota Avenue. The easements do not contain any public or private facilities, and the property owner has requested that they be released. And engineering recommends approval.
Chad, thank you. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Council. Councilor Staggers, sir.
Yeah, just wondering who the property owner is.
I believe it's Golden Triangle LLC.
Okay.
Councilor Jameson, were you going to make a motion, sir?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Karski, Councilor Anderson Jr., question.
Chad, on this property, wasn't there at one time like a gas station or convenience store that proposed for this property? And we had some problems with...
I think there's been a couple different ideas that have been thought about historically on what to do with this property, but I believe they are getting ready to potentially sell this property for development. So I don't know. I mean, I've heard at one point a restaurant was going in there, but at this point, I'm not aware of what the plan is.
If I believe right, it was access points. Okay, thank you.
Council, thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 6-0. Item 18.
A resolution approving the release of the permanent 20-foot drainage easement located in Tract 6B of Park South in addition to the City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota.
Okay, we're on the same parcel, and Councilor Saget is owned by Golden Triangle LLC.
Thanks a lot.
This easement, in addition, does not contain any public or private facilities, and its owner has requested it be released, and engineering recommends approval.
Chad, thank you. Did anyone want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move for approval.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Kai's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 6-0. Item 19.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rescheduling the business of the city from the scheduled City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 20, 2015, to Monday, October 2019, 2015.
Good evening, Jim David, Legislative Operations Manager for the City Council. This resolution will allow City Council attendance to the Chamber's annual meeting by changing the date from Tuesday, October 20th to Monday, October 19th.
Jim, thank you. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Karski. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
That is passed 6-0. Item 20.
And 20 is report of the August 27, 2015 notice of transfer of appropriations within major organizational units.
Lori, thank you so much. Council, anything else? Councilor Anderson Jr.
Mayor, I'm going to respectfully request, since we haven't been able to get the presentation for the space needs study, if it could be released to the council so that we can review that before we vote on the budget.
Okay.
It was supposed to be at an informational here a couple weeks ago, and we're told it's not going to be available till the end of the month, so we'd just like to view the study. I've had counselors ask about it.
Okay.
It's on the calendar for the 23rd, and so I believe Council Member Anderson is asking for it to be moved to the 15th.
Okay.
Either the presentation or just, release the information to the council.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Very good.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion to adjourn this meeting. Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Make it a great night, Sioux Falls.